Welcome to another episode of the Fundamentals of Programming by Programmer City. My name is Destiny Brutubo, and in this today episode, we're going to be talking about output statements. Also, we're also going to look into the various environments we're going to be using for this tutorial. Like in the previous video, I talked about Java, QBasic, and Python. So we're going to look at the various environments we are going to use to write these basic programs. And don't forget, we promise to make everything simple. So we're going to keep it in a novice perspective, that is the perspective of a beginner, so that even those people that are not from an IT background can as well comprehend what we are saying. Because you never can tell who is interested in learning programming or possibly learning other concepts of IT. So that said, let's head straight to talking about attribute statements. So first of all, before we talk about attribute statement, let's first of all see what an attribute is. Okay. Now, talking about attribute from the perspective of the computer, we know that the computer is an electronic device that produces attributes based on the inputs that are given to it, which are usually data. Okay. Now, these attributes are usually sent out through an attribute device, basically the monitor, that's the virtual display unit. So basically, any information processed by the computer and sent by the computer to an electronic device is considered an output. Okay, so and the output can be viewed on the monitor, that is the visual display unit, or as well as other devices that are connected to the computer. Okay, but in the context of programming, we're going to be using the visual display unit only, that's the monitor screen. Okay, now such outputs can be the words that you type in the keyboard through the keyboard, or certain data that as a result of a particular process within the computer system. Okay, so these are what we basically known as attributes. So to illustrate these attributes in our programming, we're going to open various programming environments, starting with Java. Okay, okay. Now let's start with Java. Yeah. So to see this in a more practical space, so to illustrate the output statement in our various programming environments, we're going to open there. We're going to start with the QBasic. Okay, so we'll start with the QBasic. So I have it downloaded on my desktop, as you can see. I'm going to link the link. I'm going to drop the link to download this QBasic. Okay, on the description below. I'm going to drop the link to download the QBasic on the description below. Now, QBasic will not just work out of the blue because, like I said in the previous video, it's not really a supported language by a lot of operating systems these days. So what they do is you either run it through an emulator. You either run it through an emulator or a virtual environment. Okay, so but this one we're going to be using the basic DOS box, that's the DOS box emulator. Okay, so I'm going to drop the link to download it in the description below. So when you open it, you simply install it and we extract the folders like this for you. Okay, so in the folder that I extracted, you come to the shortcut, you see this QB45 shortcut. So when you click on it, it's going to open the DocSpot environment on with QBasic for you. So at my desktop, you can see I have a basic DocSpot here. Okay, now the QBasic does not actually work out of the blue these days. It's not really supported by a lot of operating system because of how old it is, and the improvement by the different operating system these days. So what they do now is you can use an emulator or a virtual environment to run the QBasic. Okay, so like what I have here, I want to use the DOSBox emulator to run it. I'm going to put a link on the description below to download this if you want to get it. Okay, so When you get it, you're going to see this like this. You just extract a zip folder and you see the environment like this. So what you just need to do is just to double click to install it. Okay, we just install the Doxbuzz and the QBasic version here. Then you select the path you want to install it into. Okay, I'll just install it on this same path that we are currently in right now. So I'll not select anything, I'll just click OK and click on next. So when I click on next, it's going to install a lot of files. Okay, then but the particular one I'm going to be making use of is this shortcut. Okay, so when I open the shortcut, it's going to open the QBasic environment for me. Okay, so it's just a DOS environment. It's not really anything fancy, so we're just going to be writing some programs within this environment. Okay, so so this is for QBasic. Now, before I start writing the program in QBasic, let me also open other environments that we're going to be working with as well. Okay, so let me keep this one here. Now, I also have a NetBean installed on my system. Okay, so NetBean is an IDE that we'll be using to work with Java. So for us to work with Java, we're going to be using NetBean. Okay, then for Python, we can either use our Visual Studio Code for it. For Python, provided you install Python on your system. Okay, so how do you know if Python is on your system? You simply go down here to the terminal, or you can open any terminal within your system and simply type Python with a hyphen uppercase V to show you the version of Python you have on your system. Okay, so if you don't have Python, it's going to give you an error there. Okay, so that is for that. If you want to use Visual Studio Code, then if you don't have Python in your system, you can simply go to your Microsoft Store and search for Python, and you're going to find it there. You can install it from a Microsoft Store if you're using Microsoft Windows operating system. Okay, so then if you're using any other operating system, you can simply go to their official website and you get information on how to install Python on your system. Okay, but for this video, we're going to be using an IDE called the PyCharm. Okay, PyCharm is what we're going to be using to run our Python, just as the NetBean will be used for Java. Okay, and we're going to be using the MS DOS box for QBasic. So this is the PyCharm environment is going to load an ID and with an editor. Sorry, it's going to load an ID with an editor that we're going to use to run our Python. Sorry, these are some codes I was writing. So let me just clear them up. Let's say start a new project. So when I start a new project, I will simply, let's just say, intro. Okay, so let's open it up. So it's going to create a main file.python. Okay, for us, I'm going to explain more about the environment, what you're going to be seeing within the environment. Okay, so on NetBean 2, I will still create a new project. Okay, then when I click on new project, I simply select Java from the categories, and then I select Java application, then click on next. Then I'll also give this a name intro. Okay, I'll just leave everything I'm doing here. I'm going to explain them further, okay, in another video. But for now, just for the basic startup, you just put your project name. Make sure this create main class is selected, okay, because it's going to automatically generate a main class for you. I want to talk about what the main class is. Okay, then if you have this checkbox here set as main project, you can as well just do that, then you click on finish. Okay, I'm also going to put a link in the description below how you can download your NetBean and your your PyCharm. Okay, link to download them. I'm going to put them in the description below too. Okay, so this is a basic uh, file that will just come up. We're going to clear this up. So we're just going to be working with the main.py. Okay, then here, okay, so I wait for the netbean to run to come up. Okay, it has come up. Then you still see a basic editor here for Java. Okay, to start with, you're going to be seeing some templates on it, but we're not going to make use of any one of them for now. So what we're just going to do is just make sure you locate in between the curly brackets for your main method. That means anywhere you see a public static void main for now, you just put your cursor in between it and start writing whatever we are writing. Okay, remember we said we're keeping this very, very basic, so we're not really going to explain any one of these yet. We're just going to focus on the programs we are writing for now. Okay, then with time, as we proceed in this tutorial, we're going to explain each and every one of these statements. So you see in every one of this line what they are doing and what they are meant for, if they must be there or not. Okay, so that is just it. But for now, just stick to writing anything we're writing in your program in this public static void main in Java. Okay, but in Python we'll also just see a blank environment here, so on the main.py. So we're going to write all our programs in the blank environment. So same thing with QBasic, we're going to write here in a blank environment. Okay, now let's start with the QBasic. I'll just minimize the Java and the Python. So on the QBasic, I want to write my output statement. Remember, we're talking about output statements. Okay, so in QBasic, if I want to do an output statement, I'll simply use print, just like some of the example we saw where we're talking about statements. Okay, now before I proceed, I would like to also remind you again, because I've said it in one of the previous videos, that learning programming language is just like learning every language, every other natural language. So you should have it in mind that some of the things you're going to be seeing, that's the words, the punctuations, the characters that we're going to be using, part of the syntax of a particular language that you're writing them in. Okay, now another thing again I want you to have in mind is that another thing I want you to have in mind is that we are more focused on logic. I said it before, we're more focused on logic, that is the programming principles, not really the programming language, which one is best. Okay, so any language that I'm writing, you should just take note of what I'm writing there, the punctuations, the characters I'm going to be using, because those are the things that makes up the syntax of that particular language. Okay, so here in QBasic, I will just simply say print. Now inside the print, I'll put a quote, then let's say I'll say hello world. Okay, now hello world is usually the first statement you print in most of the programming language. Anytime you're learning a new programming language, you first of all print hello world. That is the output statement. Okay, illustrating the output statement, because it's one of the vital things in programming. Whenever you are writing a program, definitely, no matter how powerful the program is, there should be a kind of output from the program. Okay, so that is one of the reasons why you always learn output statement first in programming whenever you are learning programming. Okay, so this is a simple output statement, print hello world in QBasic. Okay, now also I want to also remind you that when we talk about statements in this case, we're talking about an instruction that the computer is to execute. Okay, so print statement here is simply telling the computer to output, to print something. That's the instruction. Now what is it telling the computer to print? It's simply telling the computer to print anything within the brackets. Okay, so what's inside the bracket? We have a quoted hello word in a double quote. Okay, now the reason why we place it in double quotes, we're going to be talking about that as we proceed. But for now, whenever you want to print anything, a comment word, you should try to put them in a double quote, because if that double quote is not there, it will not actually work. Okay, so for us to see this program, this is a program source code right here now. For us to see the outputs, we simply run the program. Now when we run this program, what will happen is that the program is simply compiled and interpreted by the computer to do what? To output a string hello world. Okay, a message called hello world. So I'll simply go to run and click on start here, and you can see from my uh, output here, the black screen, you can see hello world. Okay, now let me do something there. I would first of all write a particular uh, command called cls. Okay, now this cls command, what it will do is simply to clear screen. Like you saw the screen, you saw a lot of things on the screen right now that I just printed it. So this is another command instructing the computer that before you print this, you should first of all clear the screen, and this is just based on QBasic alone. Okay, so if we start the program again, let's say we run, you see that the screen has been cleared up and we'll only see the hello world there. Okay, so this is just a print statement in QBasic saying hello world. Okay, now if we go to Python, okay, let's go to Python. So if I open the Python environment and I want to do a print statement to, let's just say we want to print the hello world as well. So I will also say print, okay, in a double quote, I'll say hello world, just like what I did on QBasic. Okay, so you can see that I just have print hello world here, and if I want to run, I'll also go to the run here and click on run the main. Then you see the output here also printed hello world for me. So you can see that here in Python and what we just saw in QBasic, there's no different at all. Okay, now there's just something that I would just like to point out here. Now in QBasic I said you must have a double quote there, but in Python I can as well have a single quote. Okay, so and it will still run exactly the same way. Okay, so these are just like the little things that you're going to be noticing as we proceed. That means from different languages, they have different syntaxes. Like just the like the example I gave when I was talking about syntaxes, I said just like you're learning French, you're learning English, you're learning German, and you're learning different languages. So all these languages have their various grammatical structures, things they consider right in the language and things they consider wrong in the language. So working with these various languages, and that is one of the reasons why we choose to work with different languages, so that you can see that actually when we're talking about the programming principles, is actually the same across the various programming language, but the difference now will not be in syntax. That means the way you write things in Python might not be the same way you write it in Java, and might not be the same way you write it in C++, and so on and so forth. Okay, but the logic and the principle is the same. So that is why we say whenever we're talking about programming, first of all, as a beginner, if you're learning programming, you should first of all focus on the principles of programming rather than focusing on the language. Okay, so that is just it. We've seen it in Python, that is the same thing. Now if we go to Java now, for us to print the hello world just like we saw in the other two language, we're going to first of all say system. Okay, when we say system, we then say out dot print ln. Okay, before we were able to write a print statement, print hello world. Now in Java, we must also make sure that we have double quotes within the print ln. Now you can see in Java we don't only have just the print statement again. We have other things are tied to the print statement. Okay, like we have the system here, we have out.print. So we cannot just say print just like we saw in the other two language to print out in Java. We must use the print like this because this is the standard attribute stream or standard attribute method for Java. Okay, so this is how you print in Java. Okay, so you can see the differences between all of them. If I still want to run this, I'll still go to run from my IDE and click on run file. Okay, so when I click on run file, if you see that it's going to compile and also print hello world just like what other state. Okay, so to summarize this whole thing, we've seen the different environments, we've seen QBasic, we've seen Python, we've seen Java, we've seen the differences, but you also agree with me that everything we're doing is just same thing. That means the principle is the same. We are trying to print out something, and for us to print out, we have some methods or we have some things we have to call the way we are supposed to write them for them to be able to attribute the hello world, the simple hello world for us. We saw that in Java we just use system.out.println. In Python we just use print. In QBasic we just use print. Okay, so these are the things we are going to be looking at in the various languages. Okay, so you can just stick to one language. If you're following this tutorial, you can stick to one language. You can stick to the language you feel that is suitable for you. Okay, but what I'm doing is I'm just trying to tell you that whichever language you're working with, you should be conversant to the language and just stick to the language. Okay, but the principles are the same. So whenever I'm explaining something in a language that you're not working with, you just look at the way things are done. Then what you should be focusing on is the principles, just the principles. Okay, so I'm going to maybe talk about these various environments. We're going to be looking at these various environments individually so that we become conversant with them. Okay, so in some cases we'll be working with just maybe one of the environments and work with it, then see how things are done in the other one instead of switching things up. Okay, so think that is all for this video, and the next video we're going to be talking about assignment statements, at the same time talking about attribute statements. Okay, so see you in the next one, and don't forget to subscribe and follow us. If you have any question, you can simply drop it, or if you have any suggestion how we can make the video better, how we can make the tutorial better, you can simply drop it in the comment section below. Thank you and God bless you.